get real, child. Let's get real.
Hi, friends. Thank you for being with me. Today, I'm really excited. I'm always excited to have a great guest. And I've connected with this guy because we sent him my book and a letter about doing podcasts with me. And he didn't just sit back and think, well, I'm just dead set. I don't need to talk to this wild man who's got a way to make the world carbon negative or still use oil and gas. But he reached out to me and we connected, and now we're doing a podcast together. Please welcome Mark Cargile, who's running for Congress out in California. And I'm super glad to help him. And he loves my program and is a real God-fearing man who wants to make America much better. I think he and I probably agree the slogan shouldn't be "Make America Great Again," but really make America great, bigger than it was before, because our past had problems. You know, we can't be proud of the way things were when I was a kid with the racial persecution. We've come so far, but sadly, we've also sunk a long way as black families have become unmarried, with most of the kids being born out of wedlock instead of an intact Christian family. And that's a real problem. So welcome, Mike Cargill. He's got a powerful message about the danger of child trafficking, which I share with him is just the ultimate evil. So thank you for being with me, Mike.
Hey, thank you for having me, Dave. This is amazing, and God bless you for what you're doing and where your efforts are focused. I agree with you 100%. This past of this nation is not spotless. We've been the source of some great evil in the past too, but because of the hearts of this people, and I hope that the true nature of the American people is still towards a godly bent, that they want to treat others the way they want to be treated. And historically, we've done this. We've been the greatest philanthropists. We have helped so many people out of poverty, and we've been the land of opportunity, but we've lost our way too. And I want to get us back to that place where people, they talk about the American dream, and right now, so many are living the American nightmare. And I want to fix that. And we're only going to fix that when we realize that all the blessings we have are from God, our creator, that these rights that flow, as our founders recognized, these rights flow from him. And if you lose that focus, you're going to lose everything.
Well, you're so right. And, one of the things that's gone so far astray, and I think one of the PowerPoints of your district is that you have a large Hispanic population, which still clings to the values of God and family and a better way of life. And I think, you bringing up how far from those values your opponent is, the incumbent, and the position she's taken in favor of illegal immigration and in favor of this horrible disaster of hundreds of thousands of children just vaporizing into a nightmare of child slavery.
It's evil personified, really. So I'm running against a lady. Her name is Norma Torres, and she was here illegally until she was 18. Her parents shipped her up here during the revolution down in Civil War down in Guatemala. We believe her family were fighting for the communists down there. They sent their little girl up here. I don't know what happened to her on the way. I don't think anything good happened to her, but she was brought up here as a 4 or 5 year old girl, and she stayed here illegally and then naturalized at 18 years old. And since then, she's kept gotten worse and worse as her voting record reflects, I believe, her true heart in this. But it was 2021, my radar was really lit up on this issue of child trafficking, because Project Veritas, a guy named James O'Keefe, had done an expose on what was occurring in my district. at a place called the Fairplex at Pomona. And he said, we're following all of these kids that are being shipped all over the country by the Biden administration. Little girls being put into hotel rooms with 4 or 5 grown men, little boys being dropped off in an open field with a number and a name written in ink on their arms and just left crying, terrified. And they don't speak English. They don't speak Spanish. And I got this because the person they were talking to about the Fairplex was a federal whistleblower named Tara Rodas. And she was the number 2 person at this intake facility here in my district. And what she witnessed was about 10,000 kids being trafficked by the Biden administration. Now, how do I tie this to my opponent? Well, we built a website that connects all these dots, and it's norma4congress.com. Norma, the number 4, norma4congress.com. Because Norma Torres was actually the person who put this facility in place with a guy named Javier Becerra. He used to be the Attorney General of California. He's now the head of HHS. And they put this intake facility in my district to bring in unaccompanied minors. And they told everybody, we're going to put these kids in and we're going to treat them good and we're going to reunite them with sponsors and family. And that is the opposite of what happened. They dropped all of the requirements to sponsor a child, and we had known gang members, MS-13 members, 18th Street, cartel members, all of these people start showing up, and they were just giving them kids left and right, giving them kids. And in a 6-month period, nearly $1 billion flowed through the Fairplex. But I talked to the whistleblower, and I said, do you know where most of these kids are coming from? She said, yeah, one country, Guatemala. And that's very important. I said, do you know where the representative is for our area? Do you know who she is? They said, no, we didn't think to look. I said, you need to look because Norma Torres is the only member of Congress from Central America, and she's from Guatemala. And I said, you're talking about these kids. They don't speak Spanish and they don't speak English. What do they speak? And it's a Mayan dialect. And I said, where in Guatemala are the children coming from? She said, Barrios, Guatemala. I said, do you know where Representative Norma Torres is from? She's from Barrios, Guatemala. Now let's back up a couple years. When Kamala Harris was appointed the border czar by Joe Biden, she said, I'm going to go to the root cause of all of this massive migration. And she flew over Mexico and she flew to Guatemala. And people weren't paying attention. But she flew to Guatemala, and the president at that time said, the problem with this migration is not our country, it's your country. You're inviting these people. You're enticing them into the United States. Well, that didn't fly well with Kamala Harris. So she left in a huff. And then this gentleman, his name is Dr. Giammattei, he termed out. Then my opponent, who's part of this, went down to Guatemala and she said, we're going to put the right person in to make sure this continues. And we have a tweet on that website I gave you where she actually invited presidential candidates to her office in DC. This is the definition of election interference. She invited them to her office so she could help put in place the right person in the presidential election for Guatemala. Well, a lady named Sandra Torres said, no, I don't want anything to do with you. The other guy, he accepted the invitation and he's now the president of Guatemala. Well, let's fast forward a little bit. I don't know if you remember this, David, but there was a letter sent from the Attorney General of Guatemala to the Attorney General of Texas, Ken Paxton. And this letter said, Texas, please stop trafficking our Guatemalan children through these NGOs, these George Soros-backed NGOs in the Texas border. Well, the first person to attack him was his own president. The newly installed president by Norma Torres attacks his own attorney general for demanding that they save the children. And then the Biden administration piled on and they threatened this guy to shut up, quit talking about the children. We've lost. And now the Biden administration has admitted to losing over 320,000 of these children in our country. Trust me, the cartels know where every one of these kids are. A lot of them are dead already because they were using them for sex trafficking. They're using them for forced labor. And when they've been so used up and abused, they harvest their organs. It's a billion-dollar industry. And I believe, the most important congressional race in the nation, because I'm the only candidate who can say, when I take this seat, tens of thousands of children will be saved just by virtue of kicking this woman out of office. I believe she is the Guatemalan connection.
Wow. Well, that is a powerful story, friends. And I hope if you're in his district that you will vote for Mike and vote against this great evil. I think the story probably isn't heard as much. And the reason I feel called to preach the Get Real message is to share people like Mike's great information about this horrible tragedy. And these kids have no chance. I mean, they don't even speak Spanish. So it's just a horrible, horrible situation. And so I'm so glad you're running for office, and I'm so glad we've connected. And people can go to your website, but what they really need to do is get out and vote for you. And
absolutely,
we're hoping everybody that learns about this gets motivated and really steps up and hits a hard ball. So what are some of the other big issues that you think your district confronts? I mean, this is a huge issue and should alone be a reason to vote for you. But
yes,
what are some of the other evils that this lady has promoted?
Well, let's just talk about two recent votes. And when I say this is the most important race, I'm not being cavalier about that. In addition to the trafficking issue, I have the Chino Valley School Board in my district, Chino Valley Unified School District. And this is the epicenter of this issue called parental notification. And this school board was the one that challenged Gavin Newsom and these guys who want teachers to keep secrets from parents. If your child is trying to play, so here's the thing, David, this is so evil. So you have teachers that are teaching these kids sexualization stuff, and they're going, try this out. And if the child says, well, you know what? My parents would kill me if they knew what I was trying out. And they said, well, you don't have to tell your parents. And we won't tell your parents. And maybe you want to try this stuff. If you're a boy, maybe you want to try this stuff as a girl. And we're going to help you transition. And they go, well, my parents would definitely not put up with that. And they go, well, you don't ever have to tell your parents. In fact, if you want, you don't ever have to go home to your parents. We'll put you in child protective services or foster care, and we'll complete your transitioning, and your parents can't do a thing about it. And if the teacher tells your parents, they can be arrested for telling the parents. This is evil.
Totally
this
evil.
Issue, the epicenter of this issue is my district. And trust me, what happens in California happens across the nation. So they test drive these things of evil here. And when they perfect it, then they're going to roll it out in Texas and Arizona and Georgia and Florida, all of them. You look what's happening here. But here's the good news. This is the head of the snake too. And if we cut the head off here, I save a nation. So that's one issue. Parental notification, boys and girls sports, all that stuff. This is where it's all started, but this is where we can fix it. That's just one. I can give you some more. I don't know how our time is though.
Well, we're only halfway through, so we got plenty of time to hammer on evil. And I agree with you 100%. This huge lie that a mentally disturbed young person can chemically or physically sterilize themselves at a young age when they're not even able to get a tattoo, and they can ruin their life forever without their parents having any notice of it. It's just the ultimate evil. And the suicide rate among kids and adults that go through trans mutilation is very high, and the regret factor is very large because, a girl might be getting unwanted sexual attention because she developed breasts at a young age and think, oh, wouldn't it be great to be like a boy? But, a woman with her breasts cut off is unattractive to both men and women. And, it's a horrible thing for women who have breast cancer and they have reconstructive surgery to try to return some of their femininity. And, but to do that deliberately and to tell somebody who's mentally disturbed that this will make you happy to mutilate yourself or to chemically castrate yourself is just tragic. And it really is kind of a eugenics thing of trying to sterilize mentally quote unfit people who are misguided. Many of these kids that are going through sexual transformation are somewhat autistic or have other issues. And so they need loving care and they need a lot of therapy and care and support. But the last thing they need is to be taken advantage of by corrupt doctors who are making money doing butchery on young children. So I'm glad you're fighting this. I hope everybody watching this video is going to go, wow, we've just got to get Mike in office. This is maybe, like you said, one of the most important districts. I'm an advocate, and I'm going to share this video with your district and with other conservative Republicans to say, look, this guy can use some last minute support to really get the word out. And I hope that this recording that we're doing is going to be really a breakthrough for your campaign, because you're hitting on some issues that are very important to my heart. It breaks my heart to think about children suffering. It breaks my heart to think about parents in Central America being so desperate that they sell their child to a criminal organization for maybe a little bit of food or something. We need to do a lot more as Christians for charity, both in our own country and in the third world. And I'm working on technology to end world hunger. And I'm super excited to know Mike, and I really hope he wins so that he can help bring my positive program to make the world carbon negative while we still use oil and gas into the forefront as a major way that we deal with the climate issue in a positive and wholesome way. But
absolutely,
what are some of the other, what is another hot button issue that your incumbent is just horrible on? I mean, I'm sure she's got a long list of bad votes that she's made.
Yes. And the thing here is, I was in the Army. I am a third generation Army officer. I'm actually a Texan. I was born at Fort Hood, Texas, when it was called Fort Hood. But my family has a long history with the military. And I feel that this pursuit right now of this office is part of my oath of office to defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. So help me God. And one of the issues, well, there's a couple here recently that really are just horrific. One is there was a bill a couple months ago, and the title of the bill was Detain and Deport Illegal Aliens Who Assault Cops. And the bill contained firemen, first responders, and school resource officers. And my opponent voted no. If you assault our police or you assault our firemen, you get to stay in our country. That's how much they want these illegals here. And then just a couple of weeks ago, there was another bill. It said, if you're here illegally and you rape a woman, you molest a woman, you beat a woman, or you do any of this to a child here in the United States, we will deport you. And she voted no. You get to stay in our country. Do what you want to our people. So to me, that is a direct violation of her oath of office. Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution says our federal government will protect our people from domestic violence. And it can be large-scale domestic violence, or it can be assault of our police officers and our women and children. But that vote alone rendered her unqualified for this office. Now you add the whole open border thing. And we have video of her saying, I'm for open borders. I mean, literal open borders. That's another violation of Article 4, Section 4, which says our federal government will protect us from foreign invasion. And when you look at that border and in California, Arizona, and Texas, we are being invaded. So everybody who's promoted this is now unqualified to hold federal office. They have violated their oath of office. Article 6 is their oath where they swear under oath to protect this Constitution, and they have all violated it. Therefore, they should all be removed from office. That's my thoughts on this, because this nation is nothing if we won't support the foundations upon which it was founded, which is our Constitution. And that's based on our Declaration of Independence, where basically we said to the world, we're being treated horrifically. We're going to set up our own country. And this is why we're doing it. And the Constitution tells the world how we're doing it. But it's all predicated on this one thing, that we are created, that we have a creator. And from our creator stems these rights. The right, remember the thing that Joe Biden can't remember, the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But it also is predicated that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created, there's a creator, created equal, and are endowed by their creator with these rights, these unalienable rights. And if we lose that, then the rights go away. And suddenly we're not created equal. Some are more equal than others. And the law now has a two-tiered system of justice. The lawmakers sit under one system and the rest of us sit under another. That's not how we're founded. And the morals, that this is where the Republican Party is supposed to come in, because we're supposed to be the party that says, yes, these rights are here, but we also recognize the rules put in place by this same creator. And this is where we get into areas like biblical marriage and the nuclear family, and the fact that your skin color shouldn't determine your future in life. And the boys are different than girls, and the girls are to be protected. There's no higher calling for me as a man than to protect my wife and my daughter and the other women and children around us. That's our highest calling. We are defenders, and we're losing that. Now, you had mentioned the transgenders a little bit earlier. There is so much evil going on. This is why I'm so glad President Trump brought in Robert Kennedy, because what's going on with our food? And this is where I love your ideas, but our food is being poisoned.
Totally.
And we found out there's so much being done to alter people at a mental, the genetic level almost, that I don't doubt there's this rise in transgender, because they're putting stuff in the pesticides that will literally take a female frog and make her a boy. And if it's on a boy, he starts to become a homosexual frog. Well, how are these guys and these women supposed to control this when we're introducing it in their food and their water?
Totally.
My heart goes out to them.
Yes, well, you're exactly right. And if anybody watching the show got an email, go to GetRollTV.com and watch all our programming. Watch my climate documentary. But we need to restore the food to health. We've got to change our ways. Like I was telling you before the show, I feel called to preach repentance. You're talking about repentance in your beliefs, and people need to get behind you. If somebody's watching this show and think, well, that's great, but I've always voted Democratic. Well, you need to vote for Mike, because the Democratic Party has moved away from you. If you have any Christian values, if you have any traditional values, if you don't embrace truly deviant stuff like biologic boys being in a girl's locker room, and flashing around and taking away trophies and abusing women and all these horrible things. Mike is your guy. And I really hope you can do some great things. And I'm so happy to know you and be able to support you. And I hope that everybody listening to this podcast votes for you and votes for good instead of evil, because your opponent has truly embraced great evil with this whole illegal immigration, childhood trafficking, and, supporting transgender mutilation of children without their parents having any say. I mean, taking away parental rights before a child is 18 is just a horrible thing, because we realize that children don't have the mental know-how to make good decisions and need a loving parent to kind of guide them. So thank you so much for being on. And I hope that everybody watching this watches it again, gets fired up as heck, and goes to your website and gives money, and most importantly, gets out and votes and gets a yard sign and really making a difference. Thank you so much for being on, and may God bless you in your effort to save America.
Thank you, David. It's an honor and a pleasure. And God willing, we will turn this ship around, and the best days are still ahead of us.
Super. Thank you for joining me today on the show, and please tune in for more episodes. And if you really like my messaging, we've got a support button on getrealtv.com, and we desperately need support so we can spread the Get Real message to more people. So if you like this program, you liked my attitude about things, please don't be a wallflower, but be a supporter. Any contribution of any size is super welcome. So thank you for joining me, and please vote for Mike.